School Transportation Nation. Tony Corpin here with you. Excited to make to the podcast, School Transportation Nation. It's brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing. Our partners at Cummins, powering customers through innovation and dependability. And School Radio, your source for reliable radio communications. I have with me the always awesome Taylor Ekbatani. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I loved that introduction. And happy summer to everyone. I know we just officially hit the first day of summer, so that's exciting.
Yeah, no, we're really pumped for that. And you know what summer brings, Taylor? STN EXPO. You know, we're about to embark on it July 14th through the 19th. We got great content lined up. Guys, if you didn't register, but you still want to come, you got to go on site because online registration is closed. We got a sold out trade show. We got the hotel is booked solid. You know, it's going to be an amazing year, Taylor. I am super excited. We got a lot of great content. We got Green Bus Summit, Transportation Director Summit in Lake Tahoe, which Lake Tahoe, gotta love. It's so picturesque. The Alpine, the lake, just the beauty. It's just absolutely majestic. And we've got some great lineup. I know we had Tracy Brown last week on the podcast who's talking liar, liar, pants on fire, kind of the body language expert. So super excited to see what Tracy has to say and how kind of school transportation professionals can kind of leverage all the things people aren't saying through body language and really kind of getting to the bottom of things and helping them do their job better, if that's with staff, the school board, their boss, parents, kids. It's always really important to really understand the signs. And Tracy has a great perspective and very sensitive to that, and hopefully give us some great actionable tips to use and run down and do more. And I know, Taylor, you're talking with our special guest today, Kim Crabtree, Director of Transportation for Bend LaPine School District up in Oregon. Exciting for that, Taylor.
Yeah, and she's also going to be at STN EXPO Reno. She's going to be on a panel. So we have a great conversation coming up. And like you said, I'm excited to hear what Tracy Brown has to say in Reno as well.
Excellent. We got a message from one of our sponsors. Hey guys, is reliable radio and communications important to you? Got a message from School Radio. The laws against using cell phones while operating commercial vehicles are in place for the safety and security of both your school bus drivers and your students. Taking that risk comes with a hefty fine, penalties, and even the disqualification of the CDL of the driver. School Radio specializes in providing wide area push-to-talk, two-way radio solutions for schools and school transportation that are fully compliant with all hands-free operational laws. They offer a managed service program, which includes the device, all services, all maintenance at a fixed monthly budget point. No expense infrastructure or FCC license is required. Get a demo today by visiting school-radio.com. That's school-radio.com. Taylor, let's talk about what's going on in the industry. I know there was a big story you posted on stnonline.com talking about V2G. And I know this has been kind of this topic of, V2G, electric buses. There's not that many of them. V2G is kind of a pipe dream. It's not real, but it sure sounds like the federal government is being asked to take a deep, hard look at the viability of school bus V2G and really legislate that in and maybe even provided some funding. So what's kind of going on there with that?
Yeah. And I know, V2G is definitely something where directors want to get their feet wet in it. They want to see what's going on because there's this idea of, revenue back, right? And so I think it's just kind of working through those kinks and trying to figure out how to make this a viable solution for school districts. And so this legislation is at the federal government, actually, and it's two bills, one in the House and one in the Senate. And it's basically calling on the U.S. Secretary of Energy to establish a program to encourage the deployment of electric school buses and V2G technology. So kind of, asking the government, hey, look at this. Is this a viable option? How can we get this into more school districts? And how can we make this, more of a widespread application? Because it definitely has great promises, right? Putting this power back into the grid and being able to provide that revenue to school districts.
Yeah, so Jennifer Granholm, who is the head of the Department of Energy, Secretary of the Department of Energy, she is being tasked, clearly, Taylor, with this big kind of like what if scenario. And I think the Fed is obviously given the school bus industry a significant amount of funding, not nearly enough to get the job done by any stretch of the imagination. And really, I think the bigger challenge that we hear more on the street is what's really going to happen to diesel? Because Ryan and I have talked previously, all of us, Taylor, and it's really diesel's being regulated out. And it's being regulated out a lot faster than I think any of us anticipated. Because the more we talk to transportation directors, they're being told by their local dealers that you better order your diesel engines or you're not going to be able to get them anymore, period. And FYI, it's going to cost you a ton more money. Like people were estimating 20, 30 grand. I know you and I were talking, you were saying you're hearing upwards of $50,000 more. And that also is interesting because we've heard mixed messages from the manufacturers that yes, diesel's going to be around for another 10 years plus, but those engines are going to be ramping down and costs are going to go up and they're going to charge a premium for those. So now the cost disparity between electric and diesel, it isn't electric coming down, it's diesel going way up. So it's really interesting to see that come from a price shift standpoint. And I think time will tell, but I think you're getting into it a little bit with Kim Crabtree, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because, when I talked to Kim a little later, she shares that she purchased a bunch of diesel buses right now because what she's hearing in Oregon, and this is, she said there's kind of some discrepancies on what is actually kind of, the law or the mandate. But what she's kind of under the impression of is that she has to order these school buses and the engine has to be in the chassis before December 31st.
Of 2023?
Of this year.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So if that doesn't happen, she can't technically take order of these school buses. So she was, looking around, okay, who can make this happen for me? And so she ordered as many as she could, with her budget so that she can make sure she still has these diesel buses.
Pre-buying. This is kind of what we were talking about before, but I thought it was going to be much more related to being regulated out based on the deadline, but it sounds like people are going to have to move a lot quicker. And frankly, going into the new budget cycle of the summer, right? Budgets get released on July 1, but most likely the budgets are already established on what these guys are getting. It's just funds are dispersed on July 1. So I'm not sure if people are really prepared for a CapEx budget hit to buy that many new buses. But if you can't get them, I'm sensing maybe there might be some panic in the streets on this. I guess we'll see how it unfolds. But that's quite concerning, Taylor.
Yeah, and I actually have some numbers on this from a survey that we sent out because I'm going to do an online article on this and I'm really going to take a deep dive. And I will share with you those numbers. But before that, we have a special message for you.
I got a message from Cummins, powering customers through innovation and dependability. Cummins is the school bus powertrain leader with more than a century of innovation and the experience you can depend on. Cummins can meet your sustainability power needs no matter where you are on the path to zero emissions. Whether it's advanced diesel and renewable fuels or battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell, customers trust Cummins to have the right solution. With the launch of Accelera, they're accelerating to shift to zero emission vehicles by pursuing the most promising technologies, not betting on a single path, but developing an array of cutting edge solutions. Learn more at Cummins.com. That's Cummins.com. All right, Taylor. You've been holding out on us. Tell us what those numbers are. What's the data say?
Yeah, so this is as of our podcast recording day. So June 23rd, we've had about 120 responses so far, and this has been sent to transportation directors, maintenance professionals, contractors. So if you've gotten this survey in your email, please do it. It is helping us, research this topic. But essentially, looking at 120 respondents, 80% of those are still actively purchasing diesel school buses. So, that's no surprise, right? But 30% of that is gasoline, 9% electric, and 8% propane. So, of course, people could select that they're purchasing multiple fuel or energy types, but that's kind of the breakdown that we're seeing so far. And then, looking at lead times for new vehicles, it's looking like about a year based on the survey results. Some organizations are sharing that it's close to 2 years. So, of course, with that, it's causing buses to run longer, increasing maintenance expenses, that kind of thing. So we're looking at that a little bit too.
So Taylor, is that based on diesel buses or is that electric buses? Because I've heard mixed things on delivery times that they can get an electric bus, but now they can't get a diesel bus, right? Is that what's happening?
So that's just overall purchases. So
okay.
I think it just kind of depends on what they're ordering. And I'll break it down more in the article too that's coming out. But just a snapshot, that's just kind of the overall average.
Okay, very interesting. What other data points were in there that you thought jumped out?
So this is the number heavy section I got for everyone on these diesel prices that I find very interesting. So we asked people to share, okay, what was your diesel bus price in 2022? What was it for this year? And what are your dealers quoting it for next year? So I have a little bit of different numbers, but one person who was from, I want to say Virginia. So their 2022 diesel bus purchase was $120,000. 2023 was $132,000. And then for next year, it's quoted at almost $141,000. So that's about a $20,000, increase within 2 years. So that's okay. But in this next one, this is a California respondent. So they cited in 2022, $228,000 for a diesel bus. 2023, they cited almost $247,000. And in 2024, it's being projected, over $280,000. So that's a huge increase for them. That's almost $50,000 in those 2 years. So definitely differences, based on the state, but it seems that there are these price increases that directors need to be aware of.
I think the data could be skewed too because you don't know what options they're taking on that bus. Is it apples to apples?
True.
So there's kind of that to keep in mind. Are they adding air conditioning or other, things on those buses? Now, granted, California is regulated harder, so maybe there's more features or emission controls on those buses, which raise the cost of the vehicle. And, a $200,000 bus, I'm wondering if that isn't a type D bus versus a type C bus. So that also might be a factor because those prices seem a little higher than what I would consider the national average of a type C school bus. So that would be my guess. But it's just interesting data to see a $50,000 variance. But I think from a percentage standpoint, if you really look at it, that almost sounds very similar between the Virginia and the California in terms of a percentage, like about 15% is what I was kind of seeing. So I think that probably lines up with what we're hearing.
Right. And, disclaimer, obviously, some directors are filling out the survey and citing no price increase. And so this was just a couple that stood out to me. And I'll be doing a deeper dive, of course, for the article and talking to people and kind of seeing where it stands for them. But, another point to bring up is that people are seeing part increases, right? So whether that's 30%, I know one director cited 60% part increases and that's supply chain as well. So it's all kind of trickling down and impacting these purchase prices.
Yeah, then it just becomes, how do you budget, right? You can't budget a 60% price increase. That's just unusual, right? I know we felt it at STN, the cost of paper, the cost of postage, the USPS delivery went up. They raised prices, right? Unexpectedly, paper mill shuts down and they aren't making magazine paper X. So the cost of paper goes up because there's only one place that makes this type of paper. So you deal with these anomalous environmental things. Now, I think, at least from what I've heard, the supply chain has figured itself out, right? Like now prices have gone up. Now it becomes a raw material game. So because labor is going up, raw material costs are going up. Those prices are being passed along. Now, also, was there a bit of a culling where the people that made these parts, now instead of 3 people making parts, there's only 2. So there's less of a competitive environment. So they raise prices because simply there's only a couple of suppliers that can do it. And there's a premium you have to pay simply because it's the cost of doing business. So these are all very interesting kind of environmental macro kind of elements that you have to consider, I think, when budgeting and purchasing. And also, if my price goes up 60%, I'm probably going to be shopping around to see if I can get it less expensive somewhere else. So it also causes a market disruption in terms of the current suppliers that are providing those products to see if you can farm out and go look elsewhere, or maybe tap your local dealer or an independent parts dealer, or go to the internet. But buyer beware, right? When you start to seek lower prices, sometimes you get what you pay for. Could be a counterfeit part, right? Wow, that part is way cheaper. Is it too good to be true? Because it is. Mm-hmm. That is a hard lesson I think people have learned. And when you're dealing with safety, you got to be careful buying counterfeit parts, because you could have thermal events. You could have other things happen. There could be larger maintenance issues that are unexpected because you cut a corner. So definitely be careful when you're shopping around for new parts to make sure that it's a trusted supplier, that supplier is doing QC, little quality control on their inventory. Make sure you validate that the product is at OEM quality, that it's not a knockoff. That stuff exists in the marketplace. It's just the fact of the matter. And it's kind of buyer beware. You got to do your own due diligence. So keep that in mind, guys. I think whenever there's sticker shock like this, these are always challenges and things due as a reactionary measure. But, I think those are things to kind of keep in the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm. Tony, and before we go, I want to just shout out 2 positive stories, because I just love happy news of school bus drivers, and this is a great opportunity to shout them out. But there's 2 great stories on our website. One South Carolina school bus driver formed an incredible bond, with a kindergartner who was kind of having some behavior challenges, and this school bus driver noticed it, reached out, and now they have this wonderful bond, and the student is performing better in school. And so happy stories like that, I want to share that. I know you guys probably want to share that out there as well. So keep sharing that positive news. You can email us directly, but we love to see stuff like that. There's also a 19-year-old school bus driver in Colorado. So he is the youngest driver for the district, I want to say. I don't know if that's like a statewide thing, but he is super young and he loves school buses and he loves driving. And so there's a video of him kind of talking about why he loves school bus driving as well on our website. So really great articles, really great stories. Just wanted to share.
Yeah, no problem. And also just a reminder, guys, the July edition of School Transportation drops on July 1st. It's coming up soon. Make sure you check our website for the latest and greatest. We've got the Innovator of the Year, STN NSTA Innovator of the Year. It is... Well, we can't say, because you got to go to the July issue and go check it out. Wah, wah. Yeah, no, but guys, it's really exciting. It's chock full of great information. STN EXPO is coming up. We have great picture galleries, stories from STN EXPO in Indianapolis, tons of other stories talking about monitors on the school bus, drivers, staffing shortages, safety challenges. We're talking about investments in green energy, kind of the transition we're seeing across the industry. I'm talking top transportation teams at STN EXPO in Reno. We're doing the Top Transportation Teams Award with TransFinder. Antonio Civitello, President CEO, is going to do a deep dive, talk about what it takes to be a top transportation team. And they're bringing in all the winners for kind of a masterclass panel, a lunch and learn that we're doing at the show on Monday. It's going to be July 17th, 12 to 1:30. Those are really important sessions for everybody to gain knowledge at STN EXPO in Reno. Just a little taste of what's coming up. But before we take a deep dive into your interview with Kim Crabtree, Transportation Director, we got a message from TransFinder. Guys, have you ever seen a car commercial? They're always saying that the new model is sportier, faster, better. Well, the folks at TransFinder say that's the way to look at their new and improved Service Finder solution. It has the same name, but everything about the new Service Finder is better, faster, sleeker, more intuitive. Service Finder is the next generation of fleet and asset management software. It's browser-based and will make your fleet productive and cost-effective. Service Finder reduces burdensome paperwork, tracks your costs, and will help keep you from missing critical repairs. Let's face it, buses aren't cheap. You need to keep them running efficiently and lasting longer to get the most out of your investment. To learn more about Service Finder, visit transfinder.com or email them at marketing@transfinder.com or give them a call at 800-373-3609. That's 800-373-3609.
All right, guys. So I am back and I have another awesome podcast guest with us. We have Kim Crabtree. She's the Director of Transportation for Bend LaPine Schools in Oregon. So I'm very excited. You're just north of us. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
It's awesome. And I know you guys were just wrapping up your state conference this week as we're recording. So can you kind of give us a little bit, on that conference, any takeaways, what was some of the big hot topics there?
It's a 4-day long conference, and we spend the first couple days doing a pre-conference kind of professional development type things, brought in some motivational speakers, managing staff, that sort of thing. So super interesting. And then we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of, we have our department from Oregon coming in and giving some classes on updates and that sort of thing. Also, any new legislature coming through from Oregon. And then, of course, conversation around the electric bus and, how people are navigating that.
And I know we'll be jumping into that conversation a little later, but before we jump into it and get started, can we get a little bit of information on you? Kind of tell our listeners who you are, how you got started in the industry, a little bit of background there.
Been in the industry for a long time. In my previous life, I was an insurance agent. My family owned an agency, and that's kind of just what I did. And then when I started having children, I decided I needed something part-time or on the school schedule. So I started out as a bus driver, I think as many transportation directors did. Actually, job shared a route, so I just drove just the afternoons so I could get them off to school. And then I actually drove their route and I could see them walk into the house and then finish up my route and go back home. So, it just kind of morphed from there, became a driver trainer, and then a supervisor and then a director. This is the second district that I've been in that I've been a director. So I've been in the industry probably about 28 years or so.
Okay, wow.
Been a while. And I was offered the job over here in Bend, Oregon, which is Central Oregon, kind of a place that I always wanted to live. So we moved over here and love it.
Awesome. So how long have you been a director at Bend?
This is my 8th year, just starting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh. So what are, kind of the geographical, location of where you're at? What's kind of the background of Bend? How many routes you guys run in, students transported, like that kind of background stuff?
So Bend is mostly a resort town, a ski town, more rural than, the town is growing. It used to be, 25 years ago, people just vacationed over here to ski and hike and do that sort of thing. But now we are the 5th largest district in the state. So it's really exploding here. Lots of snow in the winter and then lots of sun. I think we get about 355 days of sun a year here. So
wow.
It's a nice place to live. Lots of fun things to do, lakes and that sort of thing. We have 2 locations for transportation. Our district is 1,900 square miles, so we have a really big territory to cover. So we have an office in our LaPine, which is a city 30 miles south of us, and then our larger office is in Bend. In Bend, we have about 75 routes here, and probably about 20 in our LaPine office. And I would say our LaPine area is the one that's growing right now. So it seems like more people are moving south, a little more affordable than the resort town of Bend.
Okay. So you said, what does that equal? Maybe a little bit under 100 routes kind of total?
About, yep.
Okay.
Give and take, depending. It seems like in an area that's always growing, we're constantly changing and developing and boundaries are changing, kind of depends where the growth is. And I think this will be about our 7th year in a row that we've had to redo routes.
Wow. Just because of that growth.
Yeah, growth. We also have a lot of what we call option schools. And so anybody in that 1,900 square miles is entitled to go if they get into through the lottery system and get into that school. So even if they live in La Pine, which is 30 miles south, we bring them up here to our options school. So we've decided to create all new routes for those kids because they were on buses for a very long time. So we're increasing routes by about 10 this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To just make that a more efficient process. I mean, there was a real trickle-down effect with the transfers if somebody was late on their initial route. And so we feel like this will be more streamlined, better experience for our riders and better experience for families, and kids will be more timely getting to their schools.
Okay, so if you're able to increase by 10 routes, then I would assume you guys are doing okay with school bus drivers?
We are. I knock on wood. We have been fully staffed for a couple of years.
Wow. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's take a round of applause for that because congrats to you.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say it, but we make sure that there's not a lot of neighboring districts to, we have one district that's a little bit north of us, but we make sure we have a, competitive wage. We're probably one of the, at least when we raise the wage, probably one of the highest paid wages for a bus driver in the state of Oregon. I think some districts are catching up with that. We provide full benefits after 4 hours. So that's a real attractive thing for a lot of people. Kind of gives them that middle of the day. We're getting a lot of people that I think post-COVID are like, I want to do something a little bit more meaningful. So they have that kind of middle of the day to do something, either volunteer. We got some ski bums. I'll go up and ski because it's 30 minutes to the ski lodge. But we have a great group of people, and we're just super happy with that. We're only losing 2 people because they're moving to the valley this coming fall. So we feel super fortunate.
So you guys constantly recruiting, or is it?
Not constantly. Okay. We did a really big campaign last year. I do a radio commercial 2 mornings a week. Just a quick, shout out. Hey, we're doing a drive and apply is what we call. So we set up a little course on our lot and people can come in and drive that. We have somebody from our human resources office here to help them apply. That seems to be a barrier for some people because it's all online. And then we get them through, get that process kind of done as quickly as possible. We do that. I would say last year we did it like 6 weekends or 6 weeks in a row. This year we didn't find a need to do as many. We've done 2 job fairs so far.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of school districts can't say that they're in the same position as you guys. So I think to be fully staffed and then able to add more routes, that's really great to hear.
Yeah. I mean, fingers crossed. Changes on that.
I know you don't want to speak it into the existence, right?
Right. I mean, we did compress some of our existing routes and, kind of fill those buses up a little bit further and make some more efficient routing. The net result in our Bend office is maybe 1 additional route, but we're adding several in our La Pine office. So we are readjusting. I would say it's 10 new routes, but we are kind of taking away from other existing routes.
Okay. All right. So are you guys standing in the same kind of boat with mechanics, or are you guys experiencing a shortage there?
We are not. I'm afraid to speak this out loud, but we are currently fully staffed. We were down 1 mechanic for about 60 days, and we just hired somebody about 2 weeks ago. So we are fully staffed there also.
Okay. So how many total mechanics do you guys have?
Let me think. 6, 8.
Okay. All right.
2 in our La Pine office, 6 here, and then a fleet manager.
Gotcha. So how are you recruiting for that mechanic?
There is 2 colleges here in this town. Oregon State University has a smaller satellite college here, and then the community college has a site here also, and they have a diesel mechanic program there. So we, work with them. We're advertising. Every time we do a drive and apply, we're kind of advertising through there. We also have a school here that's more of a technical school, a trade school. And so if we can recruit somebody out of there, we do and try to, build our own. And so we actually have a mechanic that's a graduate from that local school who is on staff now with us.
Okay. And then, so speaking of the mechanics and of course, our changing environment right now, I know you guys have at least one electric school bus, but how have the mechanics kind of taken that on, or has there been any additional training there?
So we do have one electric bus. And then when we purchased that, they came out and did some training. It's currently under warranty. So anything that really needs to be done, they are supplying that service for us. They haven't had to do a lot of hands-on, but they did have training on, what they can do, what they shouldn't be doing. We bought a lot of safety equipment for them. I don't think any of them have really gotten in there and done anything on it. The bus came online about April before we got it on route. I can't remember what month we got it, but it takes a while to get our camera systems on and GPS and all that. So,
So you ran it the last month or so of the school year?
Last about 2 months of school, we ran it.
Okay.
We're having some challenges. I think everybody is. It's pretty new technology, but we're excited for it. The community's excited for it. We'd like to continue to move green. Our fleet is about 65% propane, so we are running fairly green as it is. But Obviously things are moving towards electric.
Yeah. So kind of talking about that move toward electric, a lot of states are kind of mandating the end of diesel and when you can stop purchasing diesel school buses. Has there been any talk to that in Oregon, or anything you're kind of noticing between the other directors or the other districts?
So Oregon adopted the California rules. So we cannot purchase diesels after the manufacture date has to be before December 31st is what we're being told. The dealers that we work, kind of the three big bus dealers, are not producing a diesel bus anymore. I did buy every diesel bus I could get my hands on about 3 weeks ago, that's within our budget. Because we're a rural district and our teams travel over a mountain pass, to play. We needed something with more mileage than currently an electric bus could handle. And even our propanes we'd have to find a suitable place train every driver to be able to fuel a propane bus. So we like to send our diesels over the pass. They do better in the snow. That's just been our experiences. We have better experience with those buses. So it's interesting. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, we have about 40%, a little over 40, about 40% diesel right now. And it's all fairly new. So that's going to carry us for a while. They're all the clean, newer burning diesels. So I'm interested to see where things are going to go.
Yeah.
I think an electric bus could work on the majority of our routes here. They're not that long, probably not between here and La Pine, because that alone is 30 miles. So we'll see. But I cannot purchase a diesel bus any longer.
Yeah. Okay. So you said December 31st. Now that's of this upcoming year, correct?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. And then you noted that you purchased, a lot of diesel buses, and is that just due to availability? You're kind of concerned that maybe diesel won't be available, or it's going to be harder to, procure a diesel bus?
I don't think I will be able to procure one. My understanding is that the engine has to be in the chassis at the factory and, on its way to us prior to December 31st.
Okay.
And so there was a dealer that had kind of pre-purchased a chunk of them. And I'm like, okay, I need this many of them. 2 of our dealers are not even producing or building diesel buses any longer, I don't believe.
Okay.
I know one for a fact. They've completely moved over to electric. And I only know one manufacturer that's building the propane. So, that's our other option, is to go propane.
Okay. So are other directors in the state kind of doing a similar thing as you? Have you guys, you talked about it obviously at the state conference. So what was kind of the conversation?
I think people are a little bit scrambling. Like, they're hoping that maybe the date's going to be pushed out a little bit. And, I'm not familiar with other areas of the country, but we don't have the infrastructure. We certainly don't have it in Central Oregon, probably more in the Portland metropolitan area that's a lot larger. Our current lot has no more power available to us. So our next step is to research with our provider to see, what is our next step? And we need to get going on that. So that's kind of our summer project, is to start digging into that.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to take for us to bring more power to our site?
Mm-hmm. And that might even be, a new facility or some sort of upgraded equipment.
Right.
Okay.
And we actually happen to have a brand new facility. So that's going to be a tough sell. But I mean, we'll have to do something, I feel like we're pretty set for the next several years, but we try to buy, we have a replacement plan, and we're replacing about 8% of our fleet each year. So we need to figure out what that's going to look like. And can we get more power here from the utility, and what's that going to cost? So we haven't recently applied for any grants just because we know we don't have the power and we need to get the infrastructure set up first.
Okay. So that was going to kind of be my next question. Are you guys, then not applying for the next round of the Clean School Bus program because you kind of just need to almost get your footing a little bit on the infrastructure and what the next piece will look like?
Yeah, exactly. The current bus that we have that's electric is having some problems, and I think it's just it's new technology to us. Nobody over here in Central, we have the first bus east of the Cascade Mountain Range. And while the manufacturer is supporting that, they're out of state. So it's just taking some time. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure that we have that up and running successfully on a regular basis before we can really dive in to purchasing more. At least that's my feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, a lot of directors are feeling that as well. And looking at the state of Oregon, are there several electric school buses in the state? I believe you guys have a couple.
There is in the Valley area.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't any on this east side of the state.
Okay.
It's a lot colder over here. And that hasn't seemed to affect our ability to run. I mean, I will say we have a little diesel heater on it because it gets in the negatives here. So we have to have some heat in it. And if we were just using the electricity from the bus, I think we would run our charge down too quickly. Mm-hmm. But I know that there's about 3 districts that have them on the west side of the state. And they're all a little bit in the same boat, is that we're just working out the bugs and trying to figure it out, make sure we're successful at it before we dip our feet in a little bit further.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So looking at technology as a whole, is there other purchases that you're going to be making this summer, or anything that you guys have your eyes on in terms of maybe, I think you mentioned you guys have cameras, but anything else?
We put cameras on every bus, GPS on every bus. We have Wi-Fi on every bus. So all of that is also probably a potential draw on an electric bus. And I am really just trying to network with others that have similar setups to us and what's working for them and what isn't working from them. I mean, we may be doing some things to our poor little bus that we don't even know is causing us trouble. So I'm hopeful to meet more people at STN and really dig into that. I know there's, some large groups out there that are much further than us with our one little bus. So.
Hey, it all starts somewhere, right? It all starts with one.
Well, I'm hopeful to get some more insight, for our technicians, just for us on an operations standpoint, and then, move forward.
Yeah. So speaking of STN, I know you're going to be coming to Reno, Nevada for STN EXPO out there. And I know you're going to be speaking on a panel. So can you kind of give us a little bit of a teaser on what you're going to be talking about for all of our listeners who maybe are ready to pack their bags and head to Nevada?
Yeah, we all met on a quick WebEx, and there is some people on this panel that have just immense knowledge. I feel like the little child on the panel. I mean, some of these people have 300 plus electric buses in their fleet. And so I think it's going to be a great kind of question and answer session. And it's going to be about the struggles and the hurdles that we're having just as the end users. And there's some people with some great answers on this panel, I believe, that have some really good insight to help you get through some of the hurdles. And in fact, I've made a connection with one. He's already helped me out twice, connected me with the people that could really help us, move things forward on our bus. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'm probably more typical than a district that has 300 to 400 that we're just kind of dipping our toes into it. So I think it's going to be interesting. It'll be much of a learning experience for me as the audience, I believe. But that's what we're going to talk about is what's working, what's not working, where can we get help, and what can we do about it.
And it sounds like there's going to be different perspectives. So, you having one bus versus, someone else having 300 to 400 buses.
Right. Yeah. With a whole crew of engineers and all that. We've got a set of engineers that are working on this. We've got our district electrician and, we're probably more typical, I would guess.
Right. And so providing that perspective on how you guys navigate that, because I think that's really important, with your electrician, right? Right.
Yeah. We're making it work, but I think any help that anybody can get, because if this is something we're going to eventually rely on for the majority of our fleet, we need to have it working and going.
Awesome, Kim. Well, thanks so much. I think we touched on all the hot topics there. So I appreciate you taking time to speak with us. And especially after the conference, I know you're probably ready for a little wind down time, but we really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Taylor, amazing interview with Kim. Thank you so much for coming on. BNTNT Dynamite, what a great episode. We loved it. It was excellent. Special thanks to Kim Crabtree for coming on the podcast, as well as our sponsors, TransFinder, Cummins, and School Radio. We appreciate them for being a great sponsor with us and being with us every episode for this month. And we're excited to bring you the new episodes. We got live podcasts coming from STN EXPO in Reno. We got so much great content coming to you in July. Guys, hope you're having a wonderful summer. And don't forget, get this podcast, subscribe to it, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. Nation, we love you. We'll see you next week.